I said it as if something huge was going to happen when I've said one. Again, this is a collaborative event between Tales of the Tribunal and Careers in Arbitration. I'm Chris Campbell here with Miss Amanda Lee. You might know her as Mandy Lee. So I've done enough talking to start the beginning of this show. Well, and maybe this is as good a time as any. I am going to introduce the co-host, the one that's actually hosting this Zoom meeting. I didn't have to do that. So if you don't know, you're about to know about Miss Amanda Lee, aka Mandy Lee. Mandy sits as an admitted solicitor in England, in the UK, and is also admitted to the New York Bar in the United States. She is a consultant with Seymour's and has experience in the automotive, construction, and finance and waste management sectors. She's a lecturer at U of Law in the UK. She's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. She was named as part of the inaugural Legal 500 UK International Arbitration Power List. Try saying that 3 times fast. She's also a member of the board for Arbitral Women, which was a great friend of Tales of the Tribunal in season 1, and we worked together quite well. So there's a ton more I could say about Mandy. I look forward to having this conversation with her and learning out more about careers in arbitration. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Chris. I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Christopher Campbell. Or Chris, where is he? Where is he? Ah, yes, I see him now. There he is. He's the guy with the tie loosened, of course. So Chris is an international commercial law specialist. He's worked on several continents, both as external and in-house counsel, and he's presently helping the guys at Baker Hughes Global Litigation to handle their disputes. So what he's doing at the moment is he's advising on commercial dispute matters spanning the Baker Hughes sectors all across the globe. He's a true Renaissance man, is Mr. Campbell. No, he says. He has experience in a number of sexy sounding areas like state actor expropriation. That's exciting stuff, Chris, there. You can tell us about that. Data privacy protection and enforcement, oil and gas and energy operations, and international trade. He clerked for the Honorable Jocelyn T. Newman of the 5th Circuit of South Carolina. He's appointed as an arbitrator by the courts of South Carolina. He regularly authors and speaks on issues within international commercial law. And he's got a few leadership roles as well. He's vice chair of the ABA International Arbitration Committee, communications officer for the Moot Alumni Association, for all of those out there who are involved with the Viz Moot. Chris is your man if you want to be communicating with the MAA. He's on the board of advisors for the Charlotte International Arbitration Society. And gee, I think he might have created a podcast. I'm not really sure what that's about. So possibly we're going to learn a bit more about that today, shortly. Let's find out.
All right. Well, I think the moment that we've all been waiting for is here, 5 minutes into the recording and with a good number of folks in the room. So as the flyer suggested, Mandy, what is careers in arbitration? What's that about? I've been seeing this hashtag and this link show up over the past year. I see it all the time. People liking it, sharing it. What is careers in arbitration?
Well, Chris, Careers in Arbitration is an online platform that was designed to help those wishing to progress or develop a career in the field of arbitration, whether you want to be counsel, whether you want to be an academic, whether you want to do litigation and arbitration, whatever your choice of arbitration career may be, we are here to help you. We're presently on LinkedIn and Twitter. We're going to be a website in due course. There is a website domain name. It exists. If you click on it, you get some nice calming waves, which I kind of like. I used to put those up on my screen occasionally if I feel that I need a bit of mindfulness. But for now, we are on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we use, as you mentioned, the Careers in Arbitration hashtag, which allows members of the arbitration community to share vacancies anywhere in the world simply by including a hashtag in their message. So anybody following that hashtag can access all of those opportunities. We're here to help, basically.
And you started Careers in Arbitration. You're the founder, correct?
That's correct. Absolutely.
The question is, I mean, this is a fantastic tool. I mean, what drove you to start this? I mean, you know, that's a very huge part of altruism for you to take on such a challenge.
Well, thank you. Basically, I mentor a number of young practitioners and aspiring practitioners in the field, and I found that a lot of them were experiencing the same problems. It's hard to identify roles. Many roles you only come to hear about because you happen to have had coffee with the right person. You might be disconnected from a major arbitral seat, so there might be things going on that you're simply not hearing about. And I decided that it was important to make sure that a lack of information, a lack of resources, a lack of in-person contact was not a barrier that would prejudice the best candidates wherever they're based in the world. I think diversity is really, really important. This is something you and I are both passionate about. And I was conscious that it's much more difficult for diverse candidates based outside of major arbitral seats to succeed if they have trouble accessing information. We don't have a hub for arbitration jobs. It's one of the few fields where people will talk to me and they'll say, hey, I'm looking for a role in DC or New York or Paris or London or Hong Kong. Or I'm like, right, okay, whoa, slow down, all right? So I thought, you know, let's put all of those opportunities in one place. Let's try and do it in real time to make sure people can keep up. And let's recognize that most aspiring arbitration lawyers do not wake up on a Monday morning and go through the GAR 100 and search all their websites just in case there's a vacancy.
Okay, that's really interesting. And again, that's a completely helpful tool. But I mean, how does it all work? I mean, you just mentioned a second ago that basically sometimes you might be at a happy hour just having a friendly chat and someone says, hey, I got a buddy that needs a job and so. Is that how they get listed on Careers in Arbitration, or how do they get involved in this movement?
Well, initially, anyone can use the hashtag. So the entire arbitration community can help by using the hashtag and sharing any roles. Easy peasy. And I receive roles to share from law firms, organizations, friends, colleagues all over the world. This is particularly helpful, of course, if roles are being shared in languages that I do not read. It's really hard for me to research jobs in Russian. It's really hard for me to research jobs in Korean or Chinese.
I was going to say, you got Chinese down? I mean, you didn't say that. Okay, all right.
Well, I can speak a little tiny bit of Mandarin, but I wouldn't want to inflict it upon anyone. So it's really great that I have friends and contacts who share roles with me, and they say, hey, this is an associate vacancy at some firm, and I look at it, I'm like, great, that's wonderful. It's in German. I don't know what that means, but that's fantastic. I'll put it into Google Translate. So it's great to be given that information. Obviously, I search myself, so I use things like LinkedIn. I use the internet. I do from time to time go through the GAR 100 and look at every law firm and look at their websites and see what they've got. And I do that so other people don't have to, basically.
Some people do crosswords. You're looking through the GAR 100.
Well, I suspect at some point my party trick will be to recite the GAR 100. So that'll make me a really exciting party guest, no doubt. I've also got a number of very kind individuals who've helped me out with specific initiatives. So recently we did an International Women's Day campaign, 24 Hours of Inspiration, where we talked to 25 women from the world of arbitration. Rebecca Mayer assisted me with that campaign. And I've also had some assistance with the research for the forthcoming guide to young practitioner organizations from Jess Vergio and Sherazadi Shiraz. So I'm very grateful to those who have helped me out. And of course, to all my friends and colleagues over the world who have been kind about the initiative, who've reached out, who've shared information and so on. So it's very much a community effort. It just all comes through my inbox.
It's a lot of folders. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Well, that's great. So let's see. We got some. Look, we got people throwing chats out. I love it. I love it. Cheers to everyone having a glass of tea, mug of tea.
Cheers.
Thank y'all for joining so far. Yeah. So jointly in parallel to that entire conversation, and we'll get more further into careers in arbitration as we have the conversation, this talk today. So Tales of the Tribunal. It's a podcast. It's a show.
It's my moment to interview our esteemed co-host now, of course.
I was not trying hard to drop a hint.
I was waiting to see if you were going to ask any more questions. You were doing so well, you see. It was so smooth and professional. So, I was just like listening to you talk. I didn't want to ruin the flow. Okay, but hey, Chris, so what is Tales of the Tribunal?
Tales of the Tribunal is my podcast that I started almost about a year ago to the month. And it came out of the realization that I had that as I'm going around the world, working for various clients in the world of international dispute resolution, that everyone that I met, in addition to doing the really interesting work that they were doing on these cases, whether it be policy work or advocate work or as an academic, to a person, they were all extremely fascinating and just interesting individuals. But they would never just throw that out there. You might say over tea, you might, what do you do in your spare time? They're like, oh, nothing too interesting. I teach cranes how to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And it would just be these sorts of like uncanny, really interesting things. And so I said, there are lots of podcasts and shows out there that exist, and that if you tune into them, they will say, okay, on this week's episode, we are telling you about Article 34 of these rules, and this is what someone said about it. And instead, what we do on my show is we take a look at the person and the career and the sort of interesting tidbits that I've just discussed in a very just sort of human, casual way. Typically, again, it might be over tea, it might be over a glass of wine after work, and we have these sort of very direct and human conversations. And I think that that's something that helps dispel the sort of mystique and mist that exists around international practice and international arbitration. And in fact, that's where Mandy and I found a lot of kinsmen, is that, there's this sort of mystique and aura of mystery around international arbitration. And we want to pull the curtain back on that.
Absolutely. And it's such a fantastic idea as well. What really inspired you to dig out these stories, to preserve them and to share them with the all of the members of the international arbitration community, I suppose?
So it is quite literally an evolution of, so I'll say it this way, two things. One, a show that we are quite familiar with and friendly with is the Arbitration Station, and they've been around for several years now. In fact, one of their co-hosts was a guest on my show just last season, Asadi Abati. And I really appreciated the more casual and human connection that they brought. But I thought that there was still another opportunity to be found for taking it from more of a human aspect and more of a personal human interest piece sort of take on these people. I think the final point that I would say on that is that, sometimes I'm talking with colleagues or friends that exist outside of the international arbitration world, maybe over dinner or something, and they'll say, oh, Chris, what kind of work are you doing? And I'll recall that I've just met someone that is teaching cranes Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they'll say, wait, you can't just blow past that. Tell me a little bit more of that story. And I figured there are probably more people like that. Mandy, the question that I would have for you, kind of going back to careers in arbitration for a minute, is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the hashtag has been around for about a year or so, maybe a little bit longer. How's it been received so far? What has kind of the reception been from the community?
Well, I think pretty well, to be honest. The project has we're less than a year old. I know it feels like it's been dominating your LinkedIn feeds forever, but we're actually less than a year old. The social media feeds grew out of the hashtag. We now have 20.7 thousand followers for the LinkedIn feed from all over the world, which is crazy and fantastic. And obviously, we really appreciate the support. We have over 1,000 people who specifically follow the hashtag as well. So wow. we use the hashtag when posting on the feeds. So you can just follow the hashtag. If you follow the feed too, then at the moment you're getting a steady supply of arbitration lectures from all over the world. We're providing an arbitration fix, as it were, for those who are responsibly self-isolating in our community. So you can tune in to the feed at the moment. I appreciate there's not so many jobs right now because we're all focusing on other exciting things or traumatic things in some cases. And so as a result, we've decided to diversify a little bit. Diversification, it's a great strategy. And so we're trying to provide new opportunities, because I appreciate there's lots of students and lots of aspiring lawyers out there who've got a bit of time now and they're looking for ways to stay connected with our community.
Sure. Well, staying right there on that topic, what is something that we, the attendees of this tea party and the members that follow you guys online, what can they expect from careers in arbitration in the upcoming months and over the next year or so?
Hopefully the launch of the Careers in Arbitration Guide to Young Practitioner Organizations, which I appreciate
Sure.
some people are beginning to think I made up. And it's a vicious rumor, and I'm not going to actually produce it. I promise it's a real thing. There's large amounts of research also sitting in that inbox that I talked about, and it will ultimately become an online resource. So when we launch the guide, we'll launch the website. So things like the International Women's Day campaign will find a permanent home on our website. We're going to, in that guide, we're going to give you access to information about approximately, over 80 young practitioner organizations from all over the world.
I mean, just 80. Okay.
There's quite a lot of them, and there are new ones popping up all the time. So hopefully nobody's keen to set up another one, because every time somebody sets up another one, I have to do a load more research. So if you want to make my life easier, don't set up any more young practitioner organizations until I've launched the guide. Okay, give me time to catch up. We're also going to be sharing in the future resources to assist those striving to put together, for example, the best possible resume, the best possible interview performance, and so on and so forth. So we're going to be doing all we can to help the arbitration community. We're going to have some new campaigns coming up too, but I'm not going to talk about those now, or you won't be surprised.
That's exciting. That's really cool.
Okay, thank you very much. So, all right. The question that all of your fans are desperate to ask: when will season 2 of Tales of the Tribunal be hitting the airwaves, and where can we tune in?
Season 2 of Tales of the Tribunal. Okay. Can I share with you guys a secret? Is that all right? Some exclusive behind the scenes information. Season 2 of Tales of the Tribunal launches tomorrow, April 10th of 2020.
There you go, guys. You heard it here first. We can all drink to that. Cheers.
That's exactly right. I'll give you the story behind that a little bit more, because Arbitral Women did a fantastic article and newsletter about season 1 of the show that I really appreciated, and where I left it, and one of the few posts that comes from the Tales of the Tribunal page directly on LinkedIn. By the way, LinkedIn always is telling me I need to post more. It's say, oh, we haven't heard from you in a while, post more. And I'm like, stop it, LinkedIn, it's not season 2 yet. But the next set of episodes was supposed to be this sort of on the ground, in-depth feature of the Wies Moot. We were going to set up a conversation with Stefan Kroll and the organizers of the Moot. We were going to do some really interesting features on the ground this week in Vienna during Moot Week. And of course, that has now had to go completely digital, and hats off to all the Moot organizers and the MAA folks to making that happen. But I just thought that, maybe it wasn't the best time to necessarily do that. But instead, what we have done is we have recalibrated the episodes, and the first few episodes will be features on an academic, an institutional person, and another guest that will talk about, one, how they're dealing with and how their organizations are moving through working from home in a COVID-19 situation. And one of our guests that will be probably either next week or the week after is someone that has done something that I think all of us as lawyers would pass out or cringe at the idea of doing. He is a lawyer that is becoming a doctor, a medical doctor, in that he is literally took the MCAT and is starting medical school in the fall. And I thought that was, again, I talk about these interesting backgrounds of people that I have on the show and that work in our field. And I look forward to telling his story, as well as the other guests that we have for this season. So we've got some big names, some interesting folks that are on season 2. I won't, that'll be a little bit of a cliffhanger for you guys. But yeah, season 2 drops tomorrow.
Fantastic. So where can we all tune in? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is, so I post a great deal about the podcast from my personal page. Now that season 2 has begun, I can finally put LinkedIn at bay, and I will post a lot more frequently from the Tales of the Tribunal account itself. But in terms of finding the new episodes, so typically our release schedule will be Thursday early afternoon, Central European time, typically, and Yeah, and so the episodes will release on the usual platforms that it's been on: Spotify, Apple Store, podbean.com is where we host it. Eventually, we're going to set up a Patreon as well to provide some more sustainable content there. But yeah, those are the main platforms. I think we're also in the Google Play Store. So any of the main platforms that you use to find podcasts, we are probably there. And if we're not there, you send me a message at talesofthetribunal@gmail.com, and we will get you on the subscriber pool.
Fantastic. So start listening as soon as possible. And if you can't find anywhere to listen, Chris will hook you up. You just have to write to him, and he will drop everything immediately, and he will instantly send you a link so you too can tune in to the obscure arbitration practitioner with the passion for fencing that he's interviewing next week or the week after, and so on. I'm really keen to ask what the strangest hobby is of any arbitration lawyer you've ever interviewed for Tales of the Tribunal.
Well, that would be Sword of Awesome. Sword puns, sword puns. You tuned in. We told you in that. We told you in the email.
Exactly.
Puns were definitely going to be part of this equation.
We did. We warned you, so you tuned in, pre-informed that we were going to make puns. So, well done for braving the puns.
But we've had a whole bevy of people. Everything from winemakers and olive oil farmers to flamenco dancers to scuba divers, weightlifters and CrossFitters. We just had really interesting folks. I mean, it's definitely been a lot of fun. We had someone, that grew up literally on several different continents that has found themselves to being a practitioner, in London, that literally could call several different places home, and they had a random connection to another guest that they went to the same middle school somehow. And it's just these sort of interesting sorts of connections. So yeah, we'll have to maybe talk about that more after we've gotten through kind of the substantive discussion. One question that I had for you, Mandy, is that, you're at 20,000 followers so far. You got 1,000 followers in the hashtag. It's growing every day. I see the numbers, I get the notifications. My question is, when I would say, and by my definition, you've gone viral in the arbitration context or in the legal context, and you're continuing to grow and you're doing all this stuff. When is careers in arbitration a success in your mind?
That's a really good question, Chris. It's a really hard question to answer as well, because I mean, at the outset, when I first launched this initiative, I remember talking to one of my friends who I believe might be listening in today, and she and I had a bet, and she said, no, loads of people are going to like this. Loads of people will like the post. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get very many likes. And I lost the bet, and I had to bake. We're very reserved with our stakes. So I've been having to do a lot of baking, basically. Every time I lose a bet, I have to bake. So
now, what did you bake?
What did I bake? I think I baked chocolate shortbread.
And the second question is, why didn't I get any?
Well, you didn't make any bets with me, did you? Come on. If you got to get into the action. Work with me. I can give you the recipe offline. I'm not going to share it with everybody because, they would have no reason to write to me otherwise if I started giving away my recipes. Come on.
I'll tell you what, I make a mean banana nut bread.
Oh, that's good. We can trade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is good. If you make it in the microwave, it's okay.
Not that one. I have not tried to make it in the microwave, but I have baked. I made a carrot cake last week in the microwave, and that was wild.
Yeah, you see, I said he was a Renaissance man. He's baking cakes in the microwave. It's wild stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not.
But I'm sorry, I cut you off mid thought about when is CIA a success?
I think it'll be a success when pretty much anyone I talk to will have heard of it.
Anyone?
Anyone in arbitration. Not I'm not gonna start going up to random strangers and going, hey, have you heard of careers in arbitration? I'll be like,
you're gonna be at Nando's trying to get some chicken? Please. Hey, have you heard of careers in arbitration? Oh, you haven't?
Whoa, well, you have now. Come on. So
right, yeah.
But when most people in our field know that this resource exists, then the message will have got through. And one of the reasons for setting up the feed as well was to be able to say to my friends who have mentees and have students reaching out to them, asking them, where can I find information about careers in the field? I wanted to be able to say to my friends, hey, look, here are resources. You can refer these people to this website. You can refer these people to this feed. So it makes life easier for everybody. It's an information depository, effectively. So it's supposed to be there to support the community, both those already in it and those who are coming into it in the future. And a lot of the people who follow the feed are not junior practitioners.
Right.
So
No, that's true.
it's there's a very interesting mix of followers, so that we don't just share jobs, we share other things as well.
Well, right. And I mean, what I would note also is that, in putting this event together, we had the registration form that you all would have seen, but we also asked, what are some of the backgrounds or a little bit more data about people? And we had a few people that are maybe in attendance, but registered, that are people that are in hiring positions at their organizations. So, I mean, there's definitely getting some positive attention on careers in arbitration. I'll stop peppering you with questions. This is my last one for now.
Okay.
How can we, the people that are having this virtual tea, and just generally members of the community, how can we be most helpful? This is a great initiative. I think everyone here generally agrees. I mean, this is something that needs to get more exposure. How can we help?
Well, if you are someone who's in practice at a law firm, by which I mean you're above intern level, you're I can't say a qualified lawyer, because I appreciate a number of people are qualified lawyers before they necessarily have an associate role or a more senior role.
Sure.
If you're in that sort of role and you want to get involved, and your organization wants me to start sharing your vacancies, please reach out. It makes life much easier for me. You're helping the people who are searching for roles, and you're helping me, so I don't have to spend so much time looking at the internet trying to find jobs. So please do drop me a line if you are at that level or above. Due to the volume of people who reach out to me and ask for advice on career development, unfortunately, I can't provide individual advice. I'm doing my very, very best to get resources together to help you all in the future. And unfortunately, the more time I spend helping individual people, I mean, I obviously help my own mentees, but the more time I spend helping individual people, the less time I can spend putting together those resources to help everyone. So
Sure.
Please be patient. That's another thing I would say. You can help me by being patient. Please be patient. If you are keen to help in some way, if you want to get involved, if you can tell me about your internship experience, for example, you can write to careersinarbitration@gmail.com. And I will be very happy to hear from you. But otherwise, if you hear of a role, just use the hashtag careers in arbitration. Just reshare it. Use the hashtag careers in arbitration so you can help the people who are following this feed. So that's the best advice I can give you. And hey, please give me feedback if there's anything you'd like to see. I welcome feedback. So please do feel free to reach out if you wish.
Sure.
Okay.
No, I think that's great. We'll be sure to do that. Whenever I try to frequently be sharing and liking and commenting on those posts, because when you do that on LinkedIn, the algorithm will blast it out to your network. So I think that's another good way that folks can be involved.
Do I get to ask you one more question?
I mean, we can do that. That is part of the allocated time for this discussion.
That's okay then. My one last question then, before we open the floor to those who have kindly joined us for tea today. Who would you most like to interview for Tales of the Tribunal?
Let's see. Well, I don't want to alienate everyone that's not whoever this most desired guest would be, but I would say, so I'll say instead who are some of the guests that we were trying to get on season 2. And the one that I'm tentatively kind of fishing for is the lawyer that represented Jay-Z in the arbitration, the diversity arbitration that came up a couple of years ago. The progress report there is we have become LinkedIn friends. So that is progress. And so we'll see, we're sharing.
Having a slight technical difficulty, I think. can anybody still hear me? Yep, fantastic. Okay, good. Chris has frozen and will hopefully be rejoining us very, very shortly. He's very, very keen to keep his potential ideal guests a secret. So as you can see, he's conveniently chosen this moment to vanish mysteriously. So
Hello, can you hear
you're
me?
back. Excellent. Okay, I couldn't hear you there for a minute, Chris. I thought you were taking extreme measures to hide your guests' identities by vanishing into the night. Which I thought was
You
pretty
start
cool,
talking about Jay-Z. That's what happens. That's
There
what
you go,
happens.
you
The
see.
Bayhive done got on my network.
That's
Took
it. His
me out.
ears were burning, so he was like, "No, man, you're not going to be sharing that
Said,
information."
nah, don't speak about that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so the lawyer for Jay-Z, he and I are exchanging a couple of messages, and we'll see if we can make that happen. But yeah, so there's a number of different guests of that caliber. We have some heads of institutions and some other folks that we're talking with, and I'm trying to get that rascally boss of mine, Mike McElrath, to agree to an interview. And he said he'll do it, but I think I might take a pay cut at the same time.
Wow. Watch this space then for the next exciting installment of Tales of the Tribunal, where Chris attempts to catch Mike when he's free during his lunch hour, which he never takes. So
just like trick him with like a work-related assignment, like, oh, I wanted to talk to you about this, but actually,
I'm just gonna press record now. Quick.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is the as promised discussion about careers in the arbitration and Tales of the Tribunal and the things that are forthcoming. Again, season 2 drops tomorrow for those of you that have joined after I said that. So we look forward to sharing that with you. And I saw before I got disconnected, there was at least a couple of questions in the chat. And I'm going to rely on Mandy to bring one or two of those forward, because all I see is /LOL.
Fantastic. Well, those are really valuable contributions, and we appreciate those. So thank you. Keep them coming. Let's have a look at some of the questions, though. Okay. Anna Trigo says, "Dear hosts, how did you meet, and how did the idea for this tea event come together today?" And she's using the hashtag tea event, which is good. I like that. That's good social media game.
That's branding.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think, if I recall properly, Mandy and I, well, in two ways. First of all, we got a direct connection through Dana McGrath, Arbitral Women. Was one way that we met, and pointed me in Mandy's direction, because I was looking for guests for season 1. But the funnier way, and the way that I chuckle about the most, is that, again, in like this sort of insulated community that is people that post on LinkedIn about international arbitration things or international law things a lot, we've kind of like been like circling or like passing each other.
Yep. Strangers in the night, basically.
And like even in Vienna, like I was like, well, I think Mandy Lee's supposed to be here. I should try and meet her. And then like still somehow just never ran across each other. And so one of us messaged each other like, hey, meant to try and meet you in Vienna. Sorry, it didn't work out. Let's talk. And I was going to go into London, and then that's how it happened. I think that's right.
I think so. I think you ended up posting something about being in London that week, and I was like, Chris, when are you here? We should meet. Again, LinkedIn. So it's all out there in the public domain, me desperately saying, Chris, are you here? Finally. So we actually managed to finally connect in person, and had a fun lunch, and then had a fun recording session in a barrister's room with a clock that kept chiming, and I'd completely forgotten that this clock made this chiming noise. And so I was saying to Chris, hey, it's really quiet, we can go here, it'll be great, there'll be no interruptions, every 15 minutes, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, no, like clockwork. And it was like so hard to edit out.
Yeah. So I managed to find the one noise he could not edit out. So yeah. that took real skill to find that one noise.
No, but it was great. And so we have been connected since, and worked together on these ideas for diversity, for better connecting the community, and for making sure that people have access to the infrastructure of international arbitration and dispute resolution.
Absolutely. And Anna's also wonders how we came up with the tea event concept. And hey, basically we like hanging out, and it seemed like a good idea to talk a little bit about our respective initiatives, and to do so while having tea. I am a British person, so we do everything while having tea. It's a kind of, it's a kind of thing we like to do. So tea seemed like the ideal thing. And we hope that you can, all enjoy sharing tea with us. We wanted to do something a little bit less formal as well. There's a lot of webinars out there that are very formal, and so we wanted to do something a little bit more fun with puns.
Listen, if I get one more invitation to a webinar about COVID-19 and force majeure, like, it's like a worldwide notice had gone out and said, hey, you know what would be really edgy?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, those are important topics, and we're actually going to talk about COVID-19 a little bit, in this conversation, but it's just, I had like 10 of those emails.
Yeah, I think I had 4 in one day. That was like a red letter day for me. I was like, okay, I'm going to like unsubscribe from some of these things because it's becoming a little bit depressing.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we have a look at another question then from our audience? Okay, so Tranthang says, dear hosts, do you have success stories to share about your mentees?
Definitely. Do you want to take that first, or?
Sure, happy to do so. I have some wonderful mentees from all over the world. They're fantastic. They put me to shame. They constantly force me to be better because I have to try and measure up. And a number of them have managed to secure internships at fantastic international arbitration firms. They've gone on to write papers. They've gone on to do all sorts of interesting things in the field. I suspect in 5 years, they're going to eclipse me, if not before, and I'll be really proud on that day. So every time one of them writes to me to say I've won a competition, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, it's absolutely awesome. And I could not be prouder of all of them. And I'm really privileged that so many nice, aspiring practitioners, young practitioners, and practitioners sometimes who are more senior, but they've decided to switch to the field of international arbitration, have reached out to me, because every time you mentor somebody, you learn from them as well. So it's an absolutely fantastic thing to do. Look for mentors. I strongly recommend it. And if you are more senior, please do try and mentor other people. Over to you, Chris.
Sure. So I definitely echo that sentiment in that, being a younger practitioner too, it's weird to be in somewhat of the mentoring role, but I think in some ways, some of my mentees have like either already where I'm at, or they've like eclipsed, gone past, in that, some of the things I talk about are, one, just being more active generally in the space, writing articles, trying to get even, moderating or some sort of speaking roles. And yeah, I mean, some of my mentees have gone on to do that. They've gone on to get, quite good jobs with companies or with big law firms. And I'm almost kind of like, hey, can I send you my resume though? But no, I mean, I think there's a lot of value to that. And, the advice that I share with them is advice that was shared with me. And that is, you kind of have to, your first test of advocacy is your ability to advocate for yourself, and to do so in a non-abrasive way, and to do so just using it to your advantage. And I think that is a skill that is unfortunately not really well taught in law school, and something that that's really great about careers in arbitration is that it kind of helps you navigate those waters a bit, because I don't think it's well done necessarily.
Absolutely. Okay, let's have a look at another question. We're getting quite a few now, heating up the chat function here, all coming in.
Right.
Let's see. Let's have a look at this one. Question from Neem Masumi. What is the key to career longevity in arbitration? Also, have you ever had any reservations pursuing arbitration as a career path?
Okay, well, you went first. I'll take this one. I think for career longevity, I think people often forget, and I think this is true for many different careers, but especially in arbitration, because it is such a just demanding and fast-paced job, is that you have to really do be intentional about taking care of your physical and your mental health. That it can be easy to do one or the other. You know, you've got a big deadline, you've got a big hearing coming up, and there's a desire to want to stay up all night and you know, try and get every advantage you can. But the reality is, if you don't sleep, if you don't eat, if you don't take some time to make sure that your mental well-being is okay, then you won't be at your best during the hearing. You won't be helpful to your partner, to your boss, and you'll make mistakes that you wouldn't otherwise make. So I think that the key is, yes, work hard, you know, try and be as competitive as you can be, but take time to take care of your mental and physical health. And that's almost as good as, you know, any substantive research or work that you could do.
Absolutely. I knew there was something I was doing wrong. My mom is constantly reminding me that I need to eat. She writes to me pretty much every day, and she's like, remember to eat, remember to drink, remember to sleep. And I try and do all of these things at least once a day. Sometimes I fail, but I do try. So it is super, super important to protect your mental health. I'll answer the second question that Neem's raised. Have you ever had any reservations pursuing arbitration as a career path? I think that most human beings have reservations about pursuing anything as a career path, and I think I'd be unrealistic if I said I'd never had reservations. I pursue arbitration alongside litigation, negotiation, mediation, things ending in shin more generally. So I'm quite lucky in that I have a fairly diverse dispute resolution background. I think that's a good thing. Some people would disagree with me and they'd say, whoa, litigation, that pollutes the purity of the arbitration knowledge. You don't want that. I'm not of that view. I think it's helpful to have litigation experience. I also think that it's helpful to say yes to things that scare you. So sometimes people will offer you an opportunity like, you know, would you like to co-author this textbook? And you're thinking, oh, I know nothing about this topic. This is insane. I will panic. I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to display myself as an imposter who knows absolutely nothing about anything. The reality is you know a lot more than you think you do. And what you don't know, if you've got 2 years to write a book, you can certainly research. So unless you are incredibly uncomfortable with the opportunity, the professional opportunity that's being offered to you, I strongly encourage you to think carefully about those kind of options so that if necessary, you can take advantage of them, particularly during a climate like this when everybody needs to take advantage of opportunities, particularly those who are looking to succeed in the field, because you're going to be sitting around, potentially some of you, you know, the bar exam might have been delayed, or you might be waiting to take your exams, and you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs or worrying slightly, thinking, hey, what should I be doing? This is a really good time to say yes to some of those things that scare you and do them as well as you possibly can. So don't do them badly. That's not going to help your career in the long term. But if you can do them well, say yes and get involved.
No, I think that's a great, those are all great tips. I'll reach into the inbox and ask the next question. So in Nigeria, it is as if the practice of arbitration is to be available to a select few. How do we benefit from the Careers in Arbitration initiative here in Nigeria? And I think that one's directed to you, Mandy.
I'm pretty interested in your views on that one, Chris. It's a challenge. I appreciate that. There are, as you say, not as many opportunities necessarily in certain jurisdictions. Or if there are opportunities, they're not very well advertised publicly, and we might not hear about them. There are definitely opportunities out there. Make sure that you do your research. Make sure that you understand which firms in Nigeria are doing good arbitration work. Try and meet the people who work at those practices. Introduce yourself, and try and work to create opportunities. There won't always be a job vacancy available, but if you've made a good impression on a partner or a senior associate, then you might find that at some point in the future, if you've told them that you have an interest in the field, when a job does come up, they'll reach out to you and they'll say, hey, we've got something, would you be interested? And you might get access to those opportunities. Otherwise, just work on making sure that your resume is as attractive as possible. So make sure you're doing courses relating to arbitration. Make sure you're getting involved with organizations like the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators that operates in in regions like Nigeria. There are others as well, of course, and the training opportunities they provide give you access to the international arbitration community, and you can start making those connections that will make it easier to get access to those opportunities. I do my best to pull up as many as I possibly can, but it's unfortunate that in some jurisdictions there are just not as many opportunities to do big ticket arbitration as there are in others. This is likely to change over time as different jurisdictions start to come to the foreground a little bit more, but for now, it's going to be a little bit more about creating your own opportunities. I can do what I can to identify opportunities that exist, but I'm afraid you're going to have to work a little bit harder in jurisdictions where careers in arbitration doesn't yet have that much information. So keep your fingers crossed and keep searching.
Well, so I'll pick up there and speak to it in a more general sense, Mandy. And I think it dovetails nicely with the question that we just received on, how does one enter the international arbitration field? What I would say is that if you're having a hard time finding an opportunity or getting the sort of visibility and hits that you want in the field, what Mandy just mentioned is incredibly important, creating your own opportunities. Now, I think that when you hear that, a lot of times people will think, okay, go to conferences, write something. And those are ways that you can do that. I think, one, not writing things outside of the general, like long 20-page law school article or legal journal article are a good way to get some visibility. You can put that on LinkedIn or have a short blog. And I think that basically what you're doing in those instances are, sure, do your research, make sure you're writing something helpful, but that allows you to get, when people Google those topics, your name will be the first that comes up. And even if you don't have a job in the field yet, what you're starting to do there is build a brand and build some online presence about that topic. If you don't love to write, like in that way, what you can do is, some people started a podcast. And I'm not saying to necessarily start a podcast, but what you can do is, you're at home on lockdown anyway. You can make a video explaining a topic, or maybe if you don't want to host or speak on it yourself, you can get some people together and put together a virtual webinar and something. Please not about force majeure or COVID-19, but take a topic and say, okay, I'm going to get these partners at this law firm to do this, or some people I know, and give them an opportunity to feature themselves and to get some spotlight for themselves. And you've been the conduit to making that happen. And then you're at least having conversations with the decision makers and the people that you want to work with.
Absolutely. And it's a great thing to have a platform in this community and to be able to use that platform to help other people. So, you can, and by doing things like having events, getting involved in events, inviting people to speak, inviting people to share their views, you're helping them as well. And we all like to work with people who have been nice to us and have helped us. And we generally, as human beings, from a psychological perspective, we tend to help people who have helped us, who've been nice to us. Chris and I are doing this webinar because we liked each other and we connected and we have similar professional interests and so on. So as a result, we're talking to you all now. And one of the fantastic things about the arbitration community is that it is a community. And you can take advantage of that. I do not mean that on LinkedIn you should write to the most high-profile arbitrator you can possibly identify and say, hey, how's it going? I'd really like to be your friend. I've been told off for saying that people on LinkedIn are my friends, by the way. Apparently people on LinkedIn are generally not my friends. They are my connections. I have to get the terminology right. It suggests that I never leave the house. And I think everybody on LinkedIn is my friend. So I've been told that is not the case. It's very sad. But you can make connections via LinkedIn. You just have to make sure you're doing it organically and you're not intruding in people's personal spheres and writing to strangers and generally causing potential offense or upset. So be careful with your networking, but remember, we are a community, and by attending events, even virtually, you have the opportunity to talk to the speakers. Even now, you guys, I appreciate I've muted you all because I'm evil and sadistic, but having, not really evil and sadistic. Chris is laughing, you see. He's not so sure that I'm not. So I appreciate I've stopped you all being able to talk to us physically, but you can all write to us. You can ask us questions. We're here now. So, you can talk to us and, we can all connect through the excitement, the exciting forum of Zoom.
That's true. And yeah. One last point I'll say on that topic. I guarantee you, no matter where you live in the world, there is a bar association, or there is a grouping of lawyers, or there might be a chartered institute of arbitration branch nearby. If you write to them, they probably have some project that they have going on. They probably do not have enough people to help them do it. If you jump in and help them get one of those projects done, or you launch something, that is very good.
Absolutely.
Very great.
Everybody
Yeah.
loves a volunteer, basically. So if you can bring something of value to the party, people will generally appreciate that effort.
Yeah,
So,
but slowly, don't do too much at once.
yeah, exactly. Do not try and volunteer to sit on every single committee you come across. That is a very dangerous thing to do. Committee sitting is a full-time job, as I found. So try not to do that. That's my top tip for the day. Do not join every committee you come across.
Yeah. Hey, Mandy, what kind of hobbies and outside work activities do you do that keep yourself busy in these times of on lockdown?
Well, normally I would say I dance Argentine tango. It's a little bit more challenging in the present environment. My instructor is actually not that far away, but obviously I can't go and dance with him due to social distancing. So right now I'm not doing very much tango. I'm doing a lot of Zumba. So I've been doing Zumba via Zoom.
Okay.
Zumba via Zoom. That's not a pun, but it's kind of fun to say. Zumba via Zoom. So I've been
Right.
doing
Very Dr. Seuss.
exactly.
Yeah.
Seussian stuff is pretty good. I've been doing a lot of virtual teas. I don't think that's a hobby. I've found I've been cooking a lot more as well. I'm really hitting my 5 a day. This was not something I had time to do before lockdown, but now less commuting, less coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning or something. So I have much more time to cook vegetables. It's good. I like cooking. I like baking. So those things are fun when I have time to do them. I don't cook very well, but I can bake. I hasten to add. So I don't bake in the microwave though. That's a dark art that I have not mastered.
Before and that to that exact same point, I've been working on my cooking skills this year too. And I gotta say, I mean, I'm not gonna put myself on his level, but before we got into this, I mean, like Gordon Ramsay, now I'm like, all right, like.
He's on the ascension. He is. This is. I've got really good at burning things. I've honed that. I can put something on the stove and I can go off and do a conference call, and when I come back, not so good. So induction hobs are wonderful things because I can set the timer so it turns off before my dinner turns into a blackened, charred lump in the corner of the pan. So, but baking I can do. Cooking not so much. Baking I'm fine with. So I wouldn't offer to cook anyone dinner when I lose a bet. That would be cruel.
No, that's fair enough. Let's see. So, and we're winding down here a little bit. So we'll see these last few questions that we can get in. Let's see. What's one subject that you would both say is a hot topic in international arbitration for 2020 other than force majeure and COVID-19? So I would say, it did see a little bit of a rise last year, but then it kind of petered out. And I think that there could be more writing about it. Would be kind of online dispute resolution, innovative uses of blockchain or smart contract technology that's not using it as a registry for things because the internet in the cloud already work like that. But you would go to conferences about blockchain and arbitration or dispute resolution, and that's what people would say. And it's kind of like, it could be used a little bit more innovatively, I think. So those topics for sure, and how technology is going to change the legal space. Water rights, that's, environmental law, energy law, those types of things. Esports, that's something that I'm personally very interested in, and I'm going to try and do some writing on, and resolving those types of disputes because that's a rapidly developing market.
I don't think I can add much to that, really. Cybersecurity, maybe. I suppose that's a very similar ancillary area. Yeah, cybersecurity is a pretty hot topic. We are talking a little bit about the SOL protocol as well, which relates to video conferencing, but was a pre-COVID response to video conferencing. So it's something that the community had the benefit of time to think about. So that's something you're probably going to see a little bit more writing about. And of course, we've just had the Vismoot and the virtual Vis East that have made use of the various different online dispute resolution platforms available. So so for those who sat as an arbitrator in both Vis East and sat as an arbitrator in Vis, they'll be able to compare the offerings and provide feedback on different types of video conferencing software. I'm pretty sure I've tried every form of video conferencing software over the last few weeks. People are still surprising me. Somebody sent me one the other day I'd never heard of before, but I think we're all being forced to accept that something that most practitioners are quite resistant to is possibly going to become the new normal in some ways. You know, there are some applications that, you know, video conference might be enough for. Do we really need to drag counsel from all over the world and clients from all over the world? Who knows? This is a good question here from Vivek Sharma. Was COVID really necessary to compel us to go virtual?
I mean, maybe ask Greta Thunberg, but no. No, it wasn't. There was absolutely, I mean, there was quite literally an arbitration or mediation that I went to in London about a month ago. And because of COVID concerns, even though I had traveled to London, it still ended up being via video. So what was the point of that? I did not have to fly to London at all. Like, it was just pointless.
It's Chris and his carbon footprint, you see. He's a lot of trouble. Honestly, definitely a lot of trouble.
Yep. I wholly accept that. Let's see. Title of the webinar indicates Tales of the Tribunal. To what does that suggest? I'm glad you asked. Tales of the Tribunal is the name of my podcast that covers the wide world of international dispute resolution and tells the stories of the people that make the wide world of dispute resolution go round. And in fact, we now have a tagline: Tales of the Tribunal, where practice meets personality.
I love it. There you go. Where practice meets personality. Excellent.
Right?
Yeah, that's good. I like it. I like it. It's the way forward, definitely, I think.
So, let's see. Well, we have 1 minute left. You know, we don't want to hold people up late. I know it's approaching past tea time and going to dinner time. Anything else for the good of the order before we conclude? We'll hopefully have some more of these sort of co-sponsored events in the future. It's always fun hanging out with Careers in Arbitration.
And we can try and, some of the questions we've received, if we haven't had time to answer them online, we can try and share answers in due course, possibly, assuming we're both prepared to do that. Chris, I'm volunteering you there to assist in this undertaking. But hopefully, because I mean, I appreciate we've got a few more questions coming up. And we can also obviously share details, I assume, Chris, technologically, I'm sure we can do this. We can share details of how people can follow Tales of the Tribunal when the new season launches.
Absolutely. And in fact, you know, I won't, you know, sequester or take anyone else's time, but, you know, this is the end of the allotted time that we have for this. You know, if you've got somewhere to be, feel free to hop off. But I think, you know, if you're okay with that, Mandy, we can take another 5 to 10 minutes or so and answer those outstanding questions and make sure everyone gets the answers that they were looking for.
Absolutely. We're always happy to hang out with you for tea, Chris.
Sure. Let's see. So
one of my friends has sent me some truly excellent feedback, and she'll know who she is. She's just written to me on WhatsApp. I'm not going to announce it publicly, but she sent me some fantastic feedback. So we're delighted to receive that. Here's a good question. How do we get links for the next Zoom meeting? Well, when we know if we're having one, you can register and we will share it with you. That's an easy question to answer. I feel proud for taking that one.
Hey, listen, hashtag easy.
Yeah. It's a bit dangerous saying that, maybe.
Yeah. You know, with the way that 2020 has started, you know, next thing you know, it's like, well, the internet's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. That just happened. Let's see. So we got a question from Christina. What side skills do you think would be useful to get a job in arbitration? I think So first, I think, especially just the name International Dispute Resolution Arbitration, international typically connotates different languages. If you have language skills, I would definitely press that to your advantage. If you can develop further language skills, that's of course going to be helpful, because that, especially if you can be fluent and speak in legal languages, in foreign tongues, that's helpful in that you can operate outside of your native language, so you can, advertise to other markets. I think having a good knowledge of a specific industry, I think, is helpful, and that's kind of goes back to the point we were talking about before in terms of brand building. But even aside from those things that we were discussing specifically, going to an industry conference that's not necessarily something you might normally go to just gives you the opportunity to get familiar with the issues there and to get to know who the players are there. So if you see a conference on data privacy or security, for example, you may not know anything about that, but showing up there and starting to get informed, starting to get your face familiar, will get your name in front of clients, potential clients, and get that reputation tied to you.
Way forward. See if we've got any more questions. Lots of really nice comments. Thank you all very much.
Yes, so let's see. One more quick question that someone threw my way. What are some other arbitration or dispute resolution related podcasts? I know that the American Bar Association used to have a dispute resolution podcast that they did from time to time, and I still think they maybe quarterly come out with episodes. And we're looking, as the Tales of the Tribunal, are looking forward to maybe working with them in the future. The Chartered Institute of Arbitrators was doing a series of podcasts for a while. I think that they might still be doing that. I saw one that was, I think, done from someone out of Singapore, but I didn't have a chance to bookmark it, but it was on LinkedIn. I think it was called Impaneled or InPanel or something like that. And I think that, don't quote me on that. I haven't listened to it yet, but I remember seeing that on LinkedIn and it sounded really cool. And I'm always here for additional new media in the legal space, especially arbitration.
A number of law firms have come out with podcasts as well. Herbert Smith in particular, they have released a number of podcasts. So if you're on LinkedIn, if you keep up with what's going on, if you search the hashtag podcast and search arbitration, you'll probably be able to find a few interesting ones too. Obviously, Tales of the Tribunal dwarfs them all, but there will be, we shared quite a few on careers in arbitration a while back. We did a series of posts on podcasts in arbitration. So if you're looking for something to listen to during lockdown, please do have a Google on, or a search on LinkedIn, and you should be able to find not just Tales of the Tribunal, but you can find Tales of the Tribunal, but a few others as well for you to tune into. And there's also loads of lectures out there at the moment. So please do think outside the box when it comes to finding resources to help you to develop your knowledge during these unusual times in which we find ourselves.
No, I think that's great, and that's well said. Well, we are just 5 minutes beyond that time. I think that we have addressed most, if not all, of the questions. If there were anything that we missed, feel free to send it our way via LinkedIn or email, and we'll see if we can get the answers to you. If we have any more events, of course, we'll let you know. Thank you all for joining us, for taking some time out of your day to drink tea with us, and we'll see what our next event may be. Again, we appreciate all of your time, and thank you for joining. A round of applause for Careers in Arbitration. Thank you for co-sponsoring this event.
And for Tales of the Tribunal.
There is no disputing it. You might be listening to Tales of the Tribunal, hashtag Careers in Arbitration. See you next time. See, it's funny because that would imply that the stream has ended, but that's where the recording will probably end.